Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We're here in California, in San Francisco at IDF 2015. That's the Intel Developers Forum. And I'm talking with Victor Lee, who is Senior Manager, Global Alliance Marketing with Intel, and also with Jacob Sandowski, who is Product Manager, Intel Security Solutions Group. Gentlemen, welcome, both of you. Jacob, I'd like to begin by asking you this. Were I a service provider, a telco, a bit unlikely, but you never know, what advanced security services would I want in my HP Helion OpenStack data center environment?
So Martin, one of the things that we see with a lot of our data center customers is that they're concerned about the lack of visibility into traffic that is going back and forth within the perimeter between virtual machines in their environment. So you have a VM that's on one host and a VM that's on the other host, and they want to talk to each other. And so you really can't inspect that with classic hardware-based security tools. So we developed a solution that will enable virtual security appliances to inspect this traffic and provide visibility, but also the ability to provide traffic or policy enforcement in this environment. And that's something that we see a lot of our customers interested in doing, that they can provide onto their customers as well.
Why is that important?
So that's important because in these data center environments where there's not a lot of internal controls, we see that there's the way that attacks progress is that a VM that is necessarily like of a lower risk can be infiltrated by an attacker, and then through lateral propagation, that's what it's called, through lateral movement, that attacker can exploit his position within the data center to find other machines, other workloads that have the juicy data that they want to get at and potentially exfiltrate later. So because you need, if you don't have visibility into this east-west traffic, you'll never be able to see someone performing reconnaissance or looking around for these other things that are in your data center that they're going to want to pull out later. So if we want to stop these advanced attacks where people are getting in, establishing a point of presence, and then doing reconnaissance and exfiltrating data later, we need to be able to look into this VM to VM traffic.
Thank you. Over to you then, Victor. Which Intel security functions support HP Helion OpenStack?
So we have a direct integration with our McAfee next generation firewall product into HP Helion OpenStack. And we also, today at IDF, are showing a proof of concept of our Intel security controller, which is middleware that brokers the communications between environments such as Helion OpenStack and and other similar types of SDDC environments with security functionality. So the McAfee next generation firewall can also be integrated via the Intel security controller, as well as other functions such as the McAfee network intrusion prevention system product or virtual NSP.
Your turn again then, Jacob. Victor just mentioned the Intel security controller. It sounds very important. What is it?
That's a great question. So the Intel security controller is a platform, and like Victor said, it's a piece of middleware that brokers between the manager for these security functions. So Victor mentioned next-gen firewall and the network security platform, so that's firewalling and IPS services, and the OpenStack environment. So what it does is it allows us to provision virtual instances of these products on various hosts within the OpenStack environment, and then it makes a connection back configures them back to their manager, and it does that in mass. So when you start thinking about these, it provides a lot of automation leverage. So when you start thinking about how big these environments can get, where you're talking about 100 hosts, and you start thinking, how am I going to configure 100 different virtual firewalls all at the same time? That would require a lot of manpower. Well, this piece of software does it all automatically at the click of a button. So you're doing one, you can do 100 just as easily. And so you start getting a lot of scalable leverage there. And the other thing that it allows you to do is we integrate with software-defined networking controllers, and also with stock OpenStack Neutron, which is the networking piece of OpenStack. And what that allows us to do is do service insertion, so dynamic service insertion. And so we can set up rules that say, we can set up security groups. So we can set up a group of VMs by their workload and say, okay, these VMs are part of a database, or they are database for some application. And then I have another group of VMs that are web servers. And they're going to talk to each other. but I want to make sure that there's an IPS looking at inspecting the traffic between these two groups, or between another group of high security VMs that we're concerned about and the outside environment or anywhere else in my environment. And I can bind a policy specifically to that group. And then in the background, ISC works with the networking piece to make sure that all of those rules are implemented and the policies are applied. So kind of a long answer here. But it's a complex product and it's a complex situation. But we do, the short of it is it helps do not only the deployment and authentication, configuration en masse, but also this service insertion, which is really a key piece of protecting these data centers.
And Jacob, OpenStack is all about scaling out the workload in the network, and often across multiple data centers. So we're looking here at the importance of scalability. Okay, how vital is that to what you're doing, and what impact does that have on security?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question. And one of the things that we thought about when we were designing the Intel Security Controller is to think about if a customer is running multiple data centers or multiple OpenStack stacks within a data center, how do we make their lives easier in terms of rolling out security, making sure that it's uniform across all of these stacks, whether they're in one big server farm or whether they're in different geographic locations. And so with that in mind, we built the system in order to be able to connect to these multiple data centers and deploy the virtual instances that comprise one logical security deployment, but so that they all act together. And so we can connect to these multiple data centers, and you can deploy virtual IPS instances, virtual next-gen firewall instances into them, but they all act together as one, whether they're in one OpenStack or 10 OpenStacks or a mix of OpenStack and maybe some other type of software-defined data center or something like that. And we can manage that all uniformly, and it's seamless from the user's perspective. So in that way, I think we tried to tackle that uniformity issue and that scale out problem.
Victor, you get the last word here, the last question. How is Intel Security a part of the relationship with Intel and HP in NFV, Network Functions Virtualization?
So first of all, HP and Intel have had a long-standing relationship. In fact, Intel is the first technology partner with HP in the Open NFV program. And together we have collaborated for many years within the telecommunication market space. In fact, we've worked together to establish a pretty healthy ecosystem of partner solutions for network function virtualization. From a Intel security standpoint, as the security business unit within Intel, we've worked very closely to integrate some of our functionality within the Open NFV environment, such as our next generation firewall, and then through the Intel Security Controller, we're looking at adding additional functionality as well, such as network intrusion prevention.
Jacob Sandowski and Victor Lee, gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. It's great to be here.